Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Winnipeg Humane Society's webinar on cat body language, learning to communicate with felines. I'm Nancy, and I work in the Behavior Department here, and today we're going to talk about the different ways that cats use their body to communicate and to help us read them better and to help us improve our relationships with our cats. Okay, so why can cats be so confusing to read for a lot of people? How do they communicate with us? And we're going to break it down by body parts, and then we'll put it all back together and talk about different behaviors that cats will use in attempts to tell us things. And like I said, the more that we learn how to read their body language, the better our relationship with them can become. So cats can be hard for humans to read because of a number of factors. The very nature of a house cat is they are still really close to their wild roots, unlike dogs that domesticated and evolved alongside humans they're very social animals, and they developed ways of communication that are kind of more familiar to people. Cats are more wild animals, so a lot of times their body language is a lot more subtle. And so we have to maybe look a little bit closer at what they're trying to tell us. One of the things that probably the basis for a lot of confusion is that cats are predator animals and they're also prey animals. And so depending on the situation that they're in, they can switch back and forth between those two modes of being in an instant. So a cat can be all confident and having a good time, and if something happens that scares them, they can switch into prey mode in an instant. And then that leads people to be all confused about why their cat suddenly did this or suddenly did that. So so that is a really big thing that we need to keep in mind when we're interacting with our cats. And also a lot of aggressive behavior in cats is actually cats being defensive because they are being fearful, because we'll hear that a lot when people call the helpline of the Humane Society, that a cat is displaying aggressive behaviors, but when we talk to them, it turns out that maybe the cat is feeling really scared and needs to defend itself. And so being able to recognize that can really help us say communicate with our cats better and help our relationships. So I talk a little bit about this word arousal. Is a really useful word when we're talking about behavior. It's a word that describes kind of what's going on inside the cat without putting any judgment on it. So the definition here, as I have on the screen, is the experience of increased physiological activity. Basically just means how fired up the cat is, how ready to go they are. This can have a huge influence on their behavior. Relaxed cat isn't maybe going to move so quickly between with their behaviors won't be so big. So when a cat's really aroused, you can see a lot of more exaggerated body language and that sort of thing. And cats can get into a state of what we call over arousal, where suddenly they're just reacting to the environment. They aren't thinking, they aren't listening, they're just reacting, and their behaviors can change really quickly. So it's important to be able to acknowledge and recognize what state of arousal our cat might be in, because that has an effect on their behavior. But it can be hard to read that level. So so this is when we really have to pay attention and get to know our individual cats. So we'll be using that word a fair bit. So how do cats communicate with people? They don't speak language like humans do. And so how they do speak is they use their body language. And like I say, animal to animal body language communications can be very, very subtle. And so the more that we can recognize this stuff, the better. Cats also have a wide range of vocalizations that they use, and those can tell us some things about what's going on. And then there's also very specific behaviors cats will do that are telling us how they're feeling and what they want. So we'll start with going through the body parts. We'll go through them one at a time and talk a little bit about each. Of course, we have to take, even though we're going to look at each one individually, you need to take them all as a group in context, and it's the combination of thing that'll kind of like the words that form the sentences of how they're feeling. So cats' ears, tails, eyes, mouth, paws, whiskers, and even how they position their body when we're interacting with them can those all tell us a little bit of something about how the cat's feeling. So we'll start with ears. cats have incredibly mobile ears. They have 32 muscles in each ear that can move independently. So it's probably one of the easiest ways that we can see, give it an idea of how our cat's feeling. We have the, we'll start with the little tabby in the bottom left. Those are what we call kind of neutral ears. Cat's just kind of looking at us. Ears are kind of pointed forward. You know, pretty relaxed cat. We also have the relaxed dude above him, the gray cat with the green eyes. We got the one little relaxed ear, one's turned sideways. There's that independence thing, that how they can move them. Maybe he's like, he looks like a pretty relaxed guy, but maybe he heard something that way. So he's turning his ears so he can hear better. And maybe he can decide whether he needs to react to that thing or something. Yeah, so cats, like I say, cats' ears are very mobile. They move very quickly, but they can definitely give you an idea how they're feeling. We have the orange cat in the top right. He is displaying what we would call airplane ears. They're off to the side and flattened. That's when a cat there's that arousal level's coming up. They're a little unsettled. They're not sure. It can be a precursor to a fearful cat displaying more fearful behaviors, or it can be kind of an annoyed cat who's done with you. He's finished. So either way, airplane ears, the lower a cat's ears are, often the more aroused they are and maybe about to do another behavior. So we have the cat in the bottom right. His ears are pinned to his head, and combine that with the other things going on there, you know, that's not a happy cat. They pin their ears back when they're ready to defend themselves or they're ready to attack. They're getting the ears out of the way. So if you can't see your cat's ears, that's probably not a good time to try to interact with them, because they're really not happy with what's going on, and we might want to try and help them out with that. So tail, we can't tell from these pictures because they're still pictures, but how a cat moves their tail is very important. So generally the faster it's moving, the higher the arousal level of the animal. But we have even the position it's in matters for how they're feeling. We have the calico cat on the left. She's displaying what we call a high hook tail, which is generally a pretty confident cat, usually a very friendly cat. You'll see that in your cats when you come home and their tails come up and you talk to them, and they'll come over and start rubbing on your legs and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's generally confidence. It's a bit of a flag saying, hey, here I am. So on the other hand, the cat in the middle, he has his tail straight up, but it's also puffed out. It's got the poofy tail, looks like a little Christmas tree. That's a cat trying to look big, and he's in what we call Halloween cat posture, where he's standing up, his back is arched. He's trying to look as big as he possibly can against a threat. Cats will do that when they're feeling very fearful. Cats' tails will also puff out if they're startled, because they're reacting to what's going on. Say if somebody drops something and makes a loud noise, your cat may startle and their tail goes puff, and until they relax if there's no threat in the area. So yeah, so that's the cat, like I say, trying to look as big as possible. We have the cat on the right, whose general body posture, we look, his ears are very neutral, and he's sitting up and his tail is wrapped around his feet. That can be a sign of he's just in a very relaxed pose. His tail maybe isn't hanging out in danger, getting stepped on, and he's just very relaxed. If a cat's tail is wrapped hard against their body, like if you try to move their tail, they pull it, it snaps back. That's a very unsure, scared cat. You know, the tail tucked between their legs, that sort of thing. That's yeah, it's a cat who's quite fearful. So basically, the faster a cat's tail moves, the higher their arousal level. So a relaxed cat, like say, like the friendly relaxed cat, the calico there, her tail's just kind of just up in the air, and they usually sway a little bit when they walk. If your cat is thrashing their tail back very hard back and forth, cats will do that when they're about to confront each other, that sort of thing, very high level of arousal. This will depend a lot on your individual cat. Some cats will do it just in play, because they get really aroused when they're playing, and then other more relaxed cats may never really lash their tail around. So say it just depends on your individual cat and the context that they're doing it in. So we have their whiskers. This is a little more subtle sign, but it'll give an indication about how they're feeling. We have the cute little brown tabby in the upper left, who just has a very neutral ears, neutral face, neutral round eyes. That's just a pretty relaxed cat. Contrast to the black and white picture of the tabby next. which the cat's whiskers are very prominent, very pushed forward. He has airplane ears. That is a cat who's probably not unsure about things. He's very aroused. He's ready to do what he needs to do, whether to fight or run, the fight or flight response. Then we have the nice big round face tabby guy in the bottom, whose whiskers are kind of pinned back against his face. That might be that can be a sign of fear or aggression. I would say, gathered with the other facial expression he has going on, he might be a little unsure what's going on, a little fearful. So they just keep their whiskers kind of out of the way and safe. Their eyes. Generally, the bigger their eyes, the more aroused they are. The guy on the left, we have the orange tabby, who is the epitome of a squinty-eyed, relaxed, friendly cat. I actually took this picture when he was a cat up for adoption at the Humane Society, and he's got in between me and the computer screen because he wants some attention. And he was the loveliest, nicest cat. And he shows it in his face that he's a very relaxed guy. So very nice cat. He just made it hard to get work done. So the kitten on the right, we have the opposite kind of eyes. He's super round, super wide open. He's staring. His ears are straight forward, right? Whiskers pushed out a bit. He's that's a very probably aroused kitten. He's trying to figure out that he's seen something that's got his attention. So basically, the bigger and the rounder they are, the more aroused they are, and the squintier, the more relaxed. If your cat is seemingly the rest of the cat's kind of relaxed and they blink at you, that's actually a cat greeting. It's a sign of trust. They won't close their eyes around something that they're scared of. I'm sure that highly aroused little kitten there, he's not going to be blinking anytime soon. So yeah, it's kind of a nice way your cat is actually saying hi to you. So if you slow down and when you see your cat relaxing and you just make eye contact with them slowly, give them a blink. If you wait for a second, usually they'll blink back. And yeah, it's kind of a nice little conversation you're having with body language. Like we can take things that cats do and do them back to them, some of their body languages to communicate, which is kind of a good bonding experience. So cat's mouths aren't as expressive and mobile, say, as a dog's, but if we see their teeth and they're not yawning or panting, that's what we would call a distance increasing behavior. That means the cat is not happy and would be very appreciative if you moved away. The cat on the top picture here, you can see we've got the ears starting to go sideways, whiskers pushed out, and he probably is hissing. And that's definitely a distance increasing behavior. Contrast that with the cat below, who we may be seeing a whole bunch of teeth flash in there, but the cat's eyes are closed and we've just caught him mid-yawn. So yeah, generally speaking, if you see a cat's teeth showing, they're probably not terribly happy. So paws. Cat's paws are another good way we can figure out what they might be thinking. The first time they use their feet would be in the top picture there with the brown tabby mom with the little orange kittens. Kittens will knead on their mother's belly while they think it helps to stimulate the mother's milk while they're nursing, and that is a behavior that lots of cats take into adulthood, where when they're feeling very relaxed and they want to just calm themselves, they'll knead, and so they'll knead on you, on your arm or that sort of thing when they're snuggling with you, or they'll knead blankets, or then some cats will actually knead and suckle on things like blankets. It's a self-soothing behavior, kind of comparable to a small child sucking their thumb, and it just helps them to feel better. And it's a sign of a cat's not going to do that if they're not feeling relaxed with you. So even though it kind of hurts sometimes when they're kneading, maybe if they need a nail trim, it's a compliment. So that means the cat feels very calm with you and very relaxed. So that's a very nice kind of cat behavior. Usually they're purring while they do that too. The mom cat and the kittens will all purr while they're nursing. So yeah, that's kind of a nice thing. So, and then the other end, we have the cat on the bottom left there. We have his paws are all visible, or his front paws are visible. You notice the front one's kind of reaching towards us. That is what we would call a ready paw. If you combine that with the rest of the cat's body language, he's got that paw out there so he can smack whatever comes close to him really, really quickly. His tail's all puffy, and he's leaning away. So there's all kinds of body language things going on there, but that's his ready paws out and about. And we have the cat, the brown tabby, in the middle. He is got his paws hunched underneath him. And he's in a crouch posture. And that is a cat that is ready to move in any direction. So that can be a cat that is not sure about the situation and it's just checking things out and it's ready to do whatever it needs to do. He could just relax if he isn't feeling threatened, or he is ready to run away. So that would be kind of a ready position for cats. And you compare that to the two cats in the picture on the bottom right. We have the tuxedo cat in the front and the white cat with the black spots in the back, and they are in what we call cat loaf position. Everybody who has cats is familiar with this. It's a very relaxed position. There is some thought that it actually helps cats keep themselves warm too and regulate their temperature. And it's the cat isn't feeling threatened and isn't feeling worried about much of anything whenever they're laying in cat loaf position. Okay, so body position. These are kind of things sometimes can be confusing for people. We'll start with the one that's the more obvious. We have the cat from the previous slide, where you notice he's leaning away. He is showing his side, which is makes him look bigger. His tail is all puffed up, and he's got his ready paw going. That is a very defensive cat. That is a cat that really, really, really wants whatever's in front of him to just go away. And a lot of times, unlike dogs, cats will roll so that their paws are all available because they can fight with all four paws, right? They can grab and kick and use their claws that way. So yeah, so sometimes that will be a cat that's ready for a fight if it thinks it needs to. So yeah, so that's not a posture of a cat that's feeling pretty happy about things. So unlike the cat on the left, the brown tabby facing away from us, a lot of times people think, oh, well, my cat thought we were having a good time. My cat turned and sat facing away from me. That's actually a compliment. Believe it or not, that is a cat who feels comfortable enough to not have to watch you, that they're just chilling out with you. And so they can face away, and it's almost like, they're going to watch the world for you. So maybe think of them as trying to protect you. So yeah, so a cat that will show their back to you is a very relaxed cat, a very comfortable cat. And just like the other thing too, if they do stand up when they do that, and a lot of times people are like, why does my cat present their backside to me? Yet again, it's a cat who is giving you a compliment. They're greeting you, believe it or not. Cats greet by sniffing each other's back ends, and they're giving you the opportunity to. Not that you have to take them up on that, but just acknowledge that, at least recognize that it is a compliment. So even though we can't see our cat's little faces there, they're interacting with us in a very affiliative manner. And the same with the cat on the upper right. This one is really confusing sometimes for people. We have a very relaxed cat. She has rolled on her side. She is showing her belly. And a lot of people, especially if they come from the world of dogs, think this is an invitation to pet their bellies. It is absolutely not an invitation to pet a cat's belly. What it is a cat saying, I trust you enough to show you my most vulnerable part. And so when we pet them on the belly, a lot of cats see that as a violation of that trust. And that's when a cat will clamp on with all four paws and maybe even bite your arm. And people say that their cat is being crazy and they don't understand. That is why. You have betrayed their trust, and they were showing you their belly to show how much they trusted you, and then you did what they didn't want you to do. This is a very good time if your cat ever shows you this posture. It's a great time to pet them around the head, and you can even stroke kind of along their backs, but don't touch their bellies. Okay, having said that, there is always someone, when I'm talking to them, who will say, but my cat likes being pet on the belly. And you know what? I actually have a cat, too, that likes being pet on the belly. They just, at some point, some cats learn to enjoy it, and those cats do exist. It's usually not a good idea to do this with an unfamiliar cat, because they are in the minority. But yeah, my cat will present her belly like that and stretch straight out, and then quite enjoy a rub up and down. So, but that, like I say, is not the majority of cats, and it is a way for cats to say that they trust you. So when they do that, take it as a compliment, give them a nice little pat on the head. Okay, so vocalizations. Here's a little fun fact we'll start with. Cats don't usually meow at each other. Meowing is a kitten behavior that when cats and kittens, mom cats and kittens will meow back and forth to communicate, but cats stop meowing at each other as they grow older, but it works on humans. Usually cats come into our house, or they were brought up in a house with humans. Meowing works with people. It gets people's attention. It gets them to do things like feed them and open doors for them and that sort of thing. So it works, so they continue to do it. But as cats that grow up with each other, they stop responding to each other's meows. So they generally don't do it to each other. What they will do is when they walk by is they'll do little chirps and little trills and that sort of thing. If you watch, if you have multiple cats in your house, like I do, when our cats walk by each other, you hear them give a little burp at each other. Yeah, but then they turn around and meow at us. So yeah, that's kind of a neat little fact. They do have a wide range of vocal sounds that they can make. People describe them differently: chirp, trill, growl, meow, yowl, hiss, chatter. People have seen if their cat is looking at birds outside the window, sometimes they'll sit and make a noise and kind of clatter their teeth. You know, there's all kinds of different sounds they make. Usually, generally speaking, shorter, higher sounds are affiliative, friendly sounds. Little chirps, little trills, little mews, little meows. Those are friendly sounds. And longer and lower sounds, like a yowl, which is a long, drawn-out meow that maybe is a little bit lower than normal, or growls, hisses, those sort of things. Those are more verbal warnings. And so we want to listen to our cat when they do that. Some cats' first sign of, say if you're petting them and they're getting a little over aroused and they don't like it anymore, sometimes you'll hear just a really subtle growl. And it is very different from a purr. If you've ever heard a cat growl, not all cats do, but if you've heard a cat growl, it's different than a purr. And if they got to the point of yowling, then they're pretty upset. So we want to listen when our cats are giving big vocalizations. Like I say, the longer, lower sounds are usually not too happy sounds. Okay. So here now we'll talk about different behaviors that are sending little messages to us. So we can generally put them in two categories. We got affiliative or distance decreasing behaviors. So those are ones where, say, I want to spend time with you. I like what you're doing. Please do more. That sort of thing. And then we have the distance increasing behaviors, the behaviors that say, I'm not enjoying this, I would like this to end, let's put some distance between us. And so affiliative behaviors, if our cat's enjoying our company, they'll come up and they'll rub on us. Part of that is that they are actually depositing their scent on us. They have scent glands in front of their ears and the base of their tail and on their feet. So when they rub along us, that's what they're doing. Humans can't smell it, but cats can. And actually, if you have multiple cats or there's more humans in the house, cats will actually create a family scent by rubbing on everyone and each other. And sometimes that's why cats can get upset if a cat goes to the vet. Well, if one cat in the house goes to the vet and comes home, and sometimes you'll see upset with your cats, and that can be because there was a disturbance in the cat smell, because your cat now smells like the vet's office, and that can be upsetting for other cats, just the strangeness of it, or if they have bad feelings about the vet. So yeah, so rubbing on us is very affiliative behavior. It's becoming part of the family. So as part of that, sometimes they'll headbutt us. Some cats really like to do that. They bump you with their forehead. The technical term for it is bunting. See, that's another affiliative complementary behavior. Sleeping with us, that they feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable if they'll sleep near us or sleep on us. And different cats will choose different places to sleep. Some like to sleep wrapped around our heads, some on our legs, and some on our laps. It just depends. Sometimes if we're not paying attention to our cats and they would like our attention, sometimes they'll reach over and tap us with their paws. Sometimes they've learned that works to get attention. And they'll also do the vocalizations, the meowing, the chirping, and purring. Purring is generally a relaxed behavior. Sometimes it's not. Cats on the other extreme will purr if they're very stressed, if they're injured, or when they're in labor and that sort of thing. But generally speaking, it's going to be a relaxed, affiliative kind of behavior. Now, the distance increasing behaviors, a lot of these are ones that people can miss and then think that their cat did something out of the blue. But if we watch their body parts for the things we talked about earlier, the ears going sideways, the airplane ears, we look for the tail twitching and that sort of thing, or a cat that was previously laying relaxed is now hunched with their feet underneath them. Those are all signs that they're maybe getting a little bit aroused. And then they can start throwing off some distance increasing behaviors, such as if you're petting your cat and they turn very deliberately away from you, or walk away. So that is, those are both signs that they're done. And especially with children, we want to make sure that they respect these kind of behaviors, because a lot of times that's when cats will escalate their behavior because it didn't work. If they tried these distance increasing behaviors and they didn't work, they can start doing stronger and bigger ones. They'll get more and more aroused. And then, so we want to make sure to recognize them early before the cat has to get too big and like I say, gets too aroused and starts doing the bigger and bigger behaviors. So just simply walking away is a good sign. If they don't come back, then they're done. A cat that maybe is done with you petting or doesn't want you reaching towards them. Sometimes cats will reach out and slap at you without their claws, and that's a warning tap. So that's a good sign that they don't like what you're doing. If that doesn't work, sometimes they'll move up to scratching. So they'll put their claws out and they'll give you a swat. And some cats, instead of scratching, will actually do a bite where they will put their teeth sort of on your hand and just leave them there for a second, then pull them off. They don't bite down. That's a warning bite. Very good sign to stop doing something. That's when people keep doing what they're doing, keep petting them and that sort of thing. Their cat will actually bite them hard, and then they don't understand why that happened. But they gave a warning, right? Faking sleep is another one. If a cat is laying somewhere and you're thinking, wow, there's lots of activity going on right now in the house, or I'm talking to them and they're still asleep, that's so weird, they're probably faking it. We'll actually see that in the shelter, where there is some days it can be quite busy in there, and you'll see a cat just curled up with their head tucked under, and it's like they're faking sleep. They do not want interaction. And so if you do try to force interaction on them, you try to pick them up, that sort of thing, they could get quite upset. So we want to allow that. If they don't wake up, cats have extremely good hearing, and for most part of the day, they don't sleep very deeply, hence cat nap. So if they don't wake up when you're talking to them, they don't want to interact. Cats will also use vocalizations. Like I said before, the growling. Sometimes cats will growl, sometimes they'll hiss. Kittens can be more vocal than adult cats, so you hear quite a bit of hissing when they get startled. The whole world's new to kittens, so they have to figure out what's a threat and what isn't, so they can do quite a bit of hissing. Growling and yowling, they say that long, low meow can be a sign that they're not too thrilled with what's going on. So we want to listen to the distance increasing behaviors and give cats their space and ask them to interact with us and not force them to interact with us, so they don't have to keep doing the bigger distance increasing behaviors to make us stop. So basically, any change in your cat's behavior is the thing that we always say with people at the Humane Society that we're talking to them. Any change in a cat behavior can be rooted in a medical issue. Cats are very good at hiding when they're sick or injured. And so sometimes it's only a subtle change in their behavior that can tell us that they might not be feeling well. So if you do see a change in your cat's behavior, your first step is always a visit to the vet. You can try to figure out a behavior problem, but if the underlying cause is that your cat isn't feeling well because of an illness or an injury, then the behavior will be very hard to change. And we want to help our cats, right? We want to help them get healthy. So anything like sudden litter box issues, where you had a cat that was using the litter box now and now isn't, whether it's going beside the litter box or going in your clothing or that sort of thing, that can be a sign of a urinary tract infection, for example. So definitely changing litter box issues, you want to have a visit to your vet. If your cat was previously very outgoing and friendly, but now they're kind of avoiding human contact more, maybe hiding a little bit more, or on the opposite thing, if cats become more clingy and more needy, maybe they're louder, they're vocalizing more, that can be a sign too. Or if suddenly your cat is aggressive, towards human or other animals, if you go to pet your cat and they turn and swat you, it could be a sign of pain. Say you have an older cat and now they have arthritis in their hip and you pet them and you didn't know. And cats can get aggressive because they turn into that prey animal that's feeling defensive all of a sudden. So any change in your cat's behavior, you definitely go to the vet first. Cats, like I say, do have a huge varied personality. So some cats are more like petting more than others to begin with, but it's how the change in your cat's behavior, that's the important part. So in conclusion, cats talk to us all the time using their bodies, and we just have to learn to listen. And once we can take all these body parts that we talked about and take what they're doing with them and as one big picture, we can look at the context of them. We can figure out what our cat's feeling and what they're trying to tell us, and that can only, if we respect what they're telling us, then that can only help improve our communication with them and improve our relations with them, and that can only be a good thing. So if anybody has any more questions about cat behavior or any other animal behavior questions, you can call us at the Winnipeg Humane Society at our helpline, and the number is 204-988-8808, or you can email us at behavior, that's behavior with a U, at winnipeghumanesociety.ca, and you can send us those anytime, and we're always happy to help. Okay, well, thanks for your time, and we'll see you in the next video.